So I would like to welcome Lorna Slater onto the stage, and she's going to tell us a little bit about her interactions with Northern Damselfly.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Hello. So hopefully this is just a bit of levity before you get into the serious Damselfly chat. So this is what I did on my summer holiday last year. So at the moment, I'm MSP and Damselfly champion. You may recall that I was briefly, for nearly 3 years, the Scottish Government Minister for Biodiversity. And that was a real privilege because in that role, I was able to really move forward some significant endeavors in biodiversity, the ambitious biodiversity strategy, whether we ever see that delivered, new national park, ditto, the Natural Environment Bill, which was much more ambitious when it was mine, sadly, but when I was there, we were able to move things forward. And one of the cool things that I got to do was release beavers into both of our national parks. So that was part of the privilege of being a minister, was getting to actually move forward some of this nature restoration and recovery stuff, make a big difference. Beavers, of course, species that were extinct in Scotland for 300 years, and now they're back. And they're doing really, really well. They travel a long way, they breed reliably, and they are making their way all up and down waterways in Scotland, which is great. And hopefully also great for damselflies, because the kind of wetlands beavers create should be good for damselflies as well. So that was a real privilege to be in that role. Of course, not everyone was a fan. Not everyone was a fan. One of the other wonderful things that I got to do as part of that role was look at the bids to be Scotland's new national park. So I think there were 5 bids in the end, and I got to tour around Scotland and go and see them. One of the bids was for a Tay Forest National Park. So that would be largely here, joining up the 2 existing national parks. And that is prime damselfly territory, as you know, and that was a really, really solid bid. As part of that bid, I got to visit the farm of Hamish and Liberty Martin, and this is the view from the top of their land. And you can see it is absolutely God's own country. Beautiful, beautiful. Now, Hamish Martin, who runs this land, is a madman, absolute in the best possible way. Lovely guy, just really out there with all the different things that he's doing with his land. And ministerial life is a tough gig. I'm not going to lie. It was the hardest job I've ever done. So one afternoon to be up here with Hamish looking at this, and I said, you know, Hamish, I'd love to come up here one summer and camp up here and help you with your nature restoration work, cutting down the Sitka spruce, which I'll explain in a minute is their big problem. And he's like, well, why don't you? And I went, oh, okay. And so I went home to my husband, who he has been with me for 20 years. He does know I sometimes come home with mad things like, I've been made a minister and want to go camp in a stranger's backyard for a week and pull up Sitka spruce. That's my husband. He's lovely. He said, sure. So that's what we did. This is Hamish's land. He did have some Nature Restoration Fund money to restore 2 ponds. It's quite steep, his land. So there's 2 ponds kind of 3/4 of the way up, and then some kind of up and over the back. So these are the ones that were accessible for the nature restoration work, specifically around damselflies. But you can see the big challenge is that the land next door to Hamish's land is a Sitka plantation. So the Sitkas are seeding like mad onto the nature restoration site. So the restoration of these ponds, I think they took out some of the Sitka, but they were taking them out with diggers. It was making quite a big mess, and they were reinstating the ponds and some of the reed beds alongside them. And they did a really good job of that. This is what the top of the hill looks like. And there is another pond you can maybe just see in the back there, but you can see the Sitka is a mess. So that's what my husband and I were there to do, just have a bash at it. Neither of us knows how to use a chainsaw. This was strictly hand tools. So we had like a rusty old handsaw, a little curved stab saw, and some clippers. And it was honestly, it was the best week ever. It was wonderful because there's no internet here. We would get up in the morning, Hamish would drive us up the hill in his ATV and leave us there. So we would basically pull up trees and cut things down until lunchtime, have our packed lunch. And then when we got tired, we'd hike back down the hill around 3 or 4, cook some dinner in our camper van, drink, in my case, half a bottle of wine, sleep for 10 hours and do it again. It was marvelous. It was the best thing ever. Best holiday ever. So these little guys we could pull out, these were the kind of ones we could take out with a handsaw. But my husband was not deterred, and every day he'd pick a bigger and bigger tree. And so on the second last day, he's like, we're taking this guy down. Now I'm aware that's a larch for anyone who panics. Well, Hamish wanted us to take out the larches as well. It's spoiling the view, right? So my husband's like, we're taking this down. This is what's going to happen. That did take us a while. We both had to go at that. But don't you worry, we got that sucker down. The bigger problem is we couldn't do anything with it after that because it's too big. We couldn't drag it away. So it just had to stay where it was. So if anyone does know how to use a chainsaw, please call Hamish or teach me, and then we can chop these things up and move them out of the way, because really that one just had to end up where it fell. The little ones we could kind of pile into spoil heaps out of the way, and hopefully they will decay into nice habitats for something, but that one just had to stay. So the other trick about Hamish's land at the top, although it is the damselfly habitat with the ponds, it is also an ancient pine forest. So you've got these granny pines. And in the brush here, teeny little baby pines, because Hamish has shot out his deer and he's put up fences. But he did that like a year before we did this. So one of the things he asked us to do is, while we were clearing the Sitka, could we find any little tiny pines as we were going and mark them with canes? So on the first day, I found 4 and my husband found 3. But he wasn't having that. He's a bit competitive. So on the second day, he found 20. And this is a little, this is what they look like. They're really hard to spot. That's them there. So we had a bit of a game trying to find, it became a bit of a game trying to find them. And after the first day, we found so many, we actually got some canes off of Hamish to mark them up properly. And actually over the course of 6 days, we found hundreds of them. Probably about 250 off the slope marked like this. I've since heard that Hamish did have some deer in there the last couple of months. I'm hoping they haven't eaten all of these, but fingers crossed there'll still be some when we go back this summer. But that's really exciting because there's no pines in between that size and the big old granny pines. And that's the knoll we cleared on kind of our first day, or maybe the second day we got that clear in the. If you can see the number of pines that we found, all little baby guys, and then you can see the sort of Sitkas coming across there, how insidious that is. So just to give an example of what we could do in a morning, this is when we arrive first thing in the morning. And that was lunchtime. So you can get quite a number out, like they're quite satisfying. The ones that are, an inch or so, you can get them down in seconds. And the little ones you want to pull up by the roots. That does really well. So you're just giving these old granny pines a bit of space. And of course, this really is damselfly habitat, which we know because we could see them. That was good fun. See them. So that's what that pond looked like after we'd cleared around it. We did much more up the slope as well, but we just thought that was a nice kind of nice and tidy, clear space with sunlight for the damselfly. So that was really, really satisfying. I would encourage anyone who's got some time, whether at Hamish's farm or anywhere else, it's really good fun, really satisfying, physically tiring, but great. And as I say, if you know how to use a chainsaw, so much the better. If you know someone who can teach me how to use a chainsaw, that would be terrific, because we can take down some of the bigger trees that way next year. And Gordon and I will be going back in July to do it again, because it was terrific. That's me. Thank you very much. I hope you guys have a wonderful day.
Well, thank you so much. Have we got any questions?
Just want to ask you, I didn't quite, it wasn't on long enough. Do you know what species of blue damselfly that you?
What species of blue damselfly?
Yeah.
Oh dear, it's a blue damselfly. That's as far as I got.
No, I think it's Slater. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
That's why I was going to say it looks like northern
So
damselfly.
that is a triple SI for this species.
Ah, right,
So
that's okay.
the green eyes, so the
Yeah.
pea green underside of the eyes, and then you've got the hastulatum, which is the Latin for spear shape. So you get spear shape marking, and often that little black mark either side of it, and then 2 clear blue segments. Well, that'll be 8 and 9, I think. So yeah.
So you really are a northern
There you go.
damselfly.
Attracted to all.
It was just a quirky coincidence that Hamish had us up there to do that work.
But it does go to show just, obviously not a little bit, but quite a lot of hard work that can have, a big impact on particular ponds, and often, spruces and hemlocks and things can come in and shade out ponds, which can have a big impact on the invertebrates there. More questions? Okay, well, thank you very much for that, Lorna.
Not at all.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Have a great day.